Thank you very much. We're here all week. Hi, my name is Moko. I'm the chief scientist at PayPal. And I am very excited today to introduce a couple folks here. This is a session on, what is it? Commerce Goes SoLoMo. So, everyone awake? All right, great. So commerce goes SoLoMo. So let me just give you an overview of what we're going to talk about. I'm just going to introduce the meat of the talk here. Got a joker over there. I'm going to talk about the meat. They're going to talk about the meat. I'm just going to give you a bit more context about what SoLoMo is. All right? Okay, so everyone know SoLoMo? Yes. Who doesn't know SoLoMo? Raise your hand. Okay. So SoLoMo stands for Social Local Mobile, and it's something that John Doerr popularized about a couple of years ago. So he's looking into all these innovations that are popping up and sees that, wow, there's a theme here. There's social, there's local, and there's mobile. And really what I think is happening there is that social's been around for a while, local's been around for a while, GPS and all that stuff. But the catalyst in all this is this guy right here. So why is this guy a catalyst? Let me give you a quick example. I'm going to say this guy right here is the analog to this guy right here. Let me explain that. So we use this device to click on things that are on the cyber world. And analogously, we use this device to click on things that are in the real world. So what do? We check in. We also scan things. We look for places to eat, places that we like. We also shop. We also buy with this device. So in some sense, you can think of this device as the online clicker, this device as the offline clicker. And together, the lines are being blurred. So overall, that's a theme of SoLoMo today. And we have great speakers today. We have Jack Abraham from Milo. He's the CEO of Milo. He's going to talk about products, APIs, and mobile devices. And we have Greg Warden, VP of Engineering, Aware, and he's going to talk about places, place graphs, and APIs as well. So, take it away. Jack?
Great. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about harnessing the power of local data. But I thought it might be useful to sort of bring you along the journey that I've had in founding Milo and really creating access to this data and why I think it's really important. So rewind to 2007. I think we'd witnessed with the internet some pretty amazing transformations that had happened. Facebook, social, brought all of your friends online in one place. I remember my class was actually the first class in college that had Facebook, and just seeing everyone using it and influencing offline social behavior and how important the internet was as a nexus for online meets offline. I think you saw other things like Skype and email early on in the internet. And I started thinking a lot about, what does this mean for commerce? Has this happened yet for commerce? Is it going to happen? What is the consumer behavior around it? What's missing today? If I were to start a company around commerce today that I wanted to address something very big in the market, how could I add value in doing that? And I really started thinking about that and thought, just like Facebook and all these communication channels, the internet was also going to have a very major role in driving real-world commerce. So we founded Milo and set out on a very important mission of bringing every product on every shelf of every store in the physical world onto the internet. And you might ask, this local shopping thing, do people really buy this? Is this really important? And you'd be right. I mean, back in that time, everyone was talking still about e-commerce. And e-commerce is a huge, phenomenal opportunity. The ad dollars behind e-commerce built the giants like Google, Yahoo, obviously, eBay, Amazon, PayPal, some really, really, really big companies. It's a phenomenally big, transformative opportunity. But it's a very small part of overall commerce. So you can see online represents only about 5%, or 1/20th, of the full offline spend. But what was really interesting that we were observing that consumers were starting to do is cross-channel. So that means people looking online, looking at the product's information online because the internet has great data about what these things look like, the descriptions, the specifications, the reviews, all of this great information that you can have at your fingertips to decide what to buy. But the big question was, how can I figure out where this is available near me right now and at a price that I can afford? So 87% of US shoppers actually research products online and buy them in store today. And another big trend that we discovered that we thought was really positive for retailers and the economy in this sort of big transition that was happening is 45% of the shoppers that went into the store after looking online and then discovering something that they might want to buy in the store actually spent $150 more on average than they had if they had bought the product online. So we thought, this is one of these really rare win-win things in the internet, right? What's good for the consumer is good for the retailer. It's good business for everyone. And the other thing that you'll notice about this is not stagnant, right? Everyone's heard that e-commerce is growing. E-commerce is growing at about 12% per year. This cross-channel trend is growing at about the same rate, about 12% per year. It represents $1.3 trillion in the US economy, and it's 5 times the size of e-commerce. Okay, so what does that mean for local? So we really started digging into this, and like I said, trying to find a pain point that consumers were looking for. And we found, while the internet had all this great information about products and reviews and specifications, they were still picking up the phone and calling the store at the end of the day to figure out whether or not these products were available. Or they were driving around to the store. And we just thought that was such a silly thing to have happening after the transformation into the internet age. Because you basically, if you think about it, have a human being picking up the phone, calling another human being who happens to be looking at a computer screen, looking up that information for the human. So we sort of said, that's a lot of friction. Let's say you want to check 10 products across 10 stores. Man, that could take you, after you're put on hold and looking up the numbers, half an hour, 40, 45 minutes. You might just have to drive to the store to do that. So we decided this is the problem to tackle. We should eliminate the phone call. And in doing so, and in giving people instant access to this information, it'll be good for them, it'll be good for the retailers, it'll be good for commerce overall. So we started on that mission, and we were acquired by eBay last December. And part of the rationale for that is not only helping enable this huge multi-channel commerce experience, which is very important and a huge part of the future of shopping, but also to give eBay users more choice. So if eBay can become the single destination where you can go and find the lowest price for products online that are used, you can find new products, you can find refurbished products, you can find local products that are available 5 minutes away from you, where you can just hop in your car, you don't have to wait for the product to be shipped. That is really compelling from a user experience standpoint. It can make eBay a really comprehensive shopping destination for the world. And we were excited about it, frankly, because it would enable us, this great technology, this great problem that we solved, we would be able to unleash this on 97 million active users, which is a huge user base. eBay has more than 200 million listings at any time. So that was really an exciting part of for us, and a way for us to help achieve our mission of, okay, if we want to bring the world's offline inventory online, all the products, this is a great way, get this information in front of a lot of customers, drive a lot of business for retailers, and in doing so, attract the remaining inventory onto our platform. So this is very exciting. So where does the data come from? The data can come from your large merchants. So this could be your Toys R Us's. Someone from Toys R Us here today? So many of you probably saw the demo at the keynote from Frankenstein. This could be, your Best Buys, your Crate & Barrels, basically big stores that have presence across the entire country. Then you have your small and medium-sized businesses. So this could be anything from, a couple stores in your area, a regional chain, tends to be smaller, a little bit more focused, vertically integrated retailer, and then your sole proprietors. These are your mom and pop shops. And we actually have different methods for getting the data from each of these constituents in the market. You can imagine if you're a big company like Toys R Us and they have data teams and feeds and the ability to work with us, there's one way to work with them. The small and medium-sized businesses might not have that, and the sole proprietors certainly don't. So we've created a whole suite of technology that basically integrates with this data wherever it lives, and through data feeds, APIs, plugins, pipes it into a universal system that we have, and it enables us to power this experience for the consumer. So let's see where this data goes, starting with eBay. So if you look at eBay, this is a PDP, as we call it, a product display page. You can see what I'm talking about here in terms of comprehensiveness and trying to offer the maximum amount of choice for the consumer. There's new, there's refurbished, there's used, there are bundles, and you can see there's also local, which is powered by Milo. When you click on this tab, in real time, we'll actually check the inventory, the availability of the product that you're looking at, and we'll tell you which stores from the retailers that carry that product have that product in stock at this exact moment, and what the prices are. So you can see here, there's actually a pretty big price difference. You get the map of the stores, so you can see, okay, if this is where I am, and here are the stores that have this product, you can get a pretty good sense for where you might want to go based on that. You can also get the real-time data about the stock, and I believe this looks like a $25 difference in price. So if that's important to you, then you can also save in the price difference there. It's also integrated on local search. So local search, you can see here, this is a feature in the garden today that you can opt in for to actually be able to search local stores on eBay. And this is a great way, again, to bring the information front and center for the consumer in the experience on eBay. The search page is one of the most highly trafficked pages on eBay, and it's a tremendous amount of intent-based traffic that we can unleash on the real world. So you can see here the powered by Milo. We also integrated local into Red Laser. So who here has heard of Red Laser? Almost everyone. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, Red Laser is a neat app where you can use the camera in your smartphone to scan a barcode in the store and get information about that product. We actually integrated Milo into Red Laser, you can see right here, so that, let's say you're at a store and they don't have your size and you want to find a store nearby that has that product in your size, you can do that. If you're at a friend's house and they just got the new gadget or a book or something like that and you want to figure out who has it nearby, you can literally just whip out your phone, scan the barcode, and we'll tell you which retailers have this product in stock right now and who has the lowest price. Okay, so that's eBay, but let's talk about the broader web, because this is truly a trend of the internet impacting the real world commerce. Here's an example of another big shopping site that we've integrated with. PriceGrabber reaches 26 million shoppers, and we power all of their local all the local data for their searches, again giving their shoppers more choice. And you can see here that the prices actually do vary also for the consumer by a factor of about $50. So there's also this ability to trade off choice between location and brand and retailer you like and price, which is very useful for the consumer. You can see here, this is an integration with Consumer Reports. How many of you have used Consumer Reports in the past 3 years to buy something? So pretty big. It's particularly good for this category. So the research online, buy offline. When you really want to make sure you're buying the right product, a lot of people turn to Consumer Reports for that information. And you can see that Milo also powers the local results here. There are also other sites. So here is actually a nonprofit organization that helps you find energy-efficient products near you. So we use the Milo technology here to integrate and show their users where they can find these products nearby. A lot of them, you can notice, they're actually big products. It's hard to ship. You don't know if it's going to... I have a friend who's ordered TVs online. He ordered the same one 3 times in a row, and every time it showed up broken. It's not the best experience to be in, shipping back a TV to someone you ordered it from. So, in this case, it's really useful for the consumer to see it, make sure it's exactly what they want in the store before buying it, and then ultimately bring it home. McClatchy Newspapers would be another one. So you can see here for all of their sort of local sites across the US, we're powering this capability. So what about local anywhere? It's been amazing since we started on this journey and really started trying to solve this problem for people. We found there is just an incredible demand for this data. When we were, a little company, probably about the point we were 7 people off of University Avenue in Palo Alto, we were fielding inquiries from some of the biggest companies in the world about this data. And ever since then, we've thought about what would be possible if this data could go anywhere. What kind of applications could be built? What kind of integrations could be made? So for the first time, I'm happy to announce we're actually opening up all of this information to partners large and small. So if you have an application, if you have a site, if you have a network for developers, you can now tap into this data and get access to the power of these local listings. So what do you get? You get access to real-time inventory information for 50,000 stores across the country and millions of products. We also have in our API the ability to get product data, so you can get things like product images, descriptions, reviews, obviously the ratings, the specifications, so a tremendous amount of product-level data as well. We have data on the stores, so we have the lat longs normalized, so you don't need to do that. We have the store hours. We have just basically anything that you could imagine you'd want as a consumer for this data. We have it packaged up in this API. And we're really excited to see what can be built with it. So that's part of the reason why we're unleashing it. You can imagine being in your car and talking to your car and saying, I want the new iPhone 4S, and the car routing you to the nearest store that has it in stock. Or your wife just really needs you to pick up something on the way home, and she's able to, from her phone or from her computer, actually find that product and beam it to your car. That would be cool. Or even, you're listening to an advertisement on the radio about some really cool product that just came out, and instantly it comes up in your display. And we just think there are endless sort of integrations and new innovations that can be made using this data. So we're happy to get it started. You can visit http://milo.com/API-inquiry if you want to sign up for the API. It will also be available. It's wrapped into the X-Commerce API, so you'll be able to access the data there as well. And then also, if you have any questions or you need more information, if you go to milo.com/API-docs, there's a lot of information and support there for developing on the platform. So really, kind of tying it all together, we have all these trends happening. We have a lot of stuff happening in social. We have a lot of really disruptive stuff happening in mobile. The internet's going to be integrated everywhere you are, wherever you go. And we have all this data now in local. And it's over $1 trillion opportunity. So it's up to you what you want to use that data for, and hopefully you can make something really great from it. All right, Greg, you're up. Thanks.
All right, I'm Greg Warden, head of engineering for Where.com, and I'm really excited to be here and get a chance to talk to you guys. When Mocha approached me about talking at a SoLoMo breakout session, 3 or 4 different presentations started going through my mind, and I had to kind of figure out which one I was going to give. And so First one was, hey, I could run through all the capabilities of what Where does and try to lure you to our booth and maybe mention SoLoMo along the way. Well, not really, and just full-on marketing. One idea. Number two, talk about social, local, mobile, and some of the observations in this area as we sort of built our business and kind of some of the things that we learned along the way. Number two. Number three, Moak is now chief scientist at PayPal, so I thought we could just sort of pepper him with science questions. Right. So I kind of settled on, I think number two made the most sense. And what I'd like to do is actually kind of narrow the focus a little bit and talk about places and why real places are important to SoLoMo. Now I'm going to switch it around a little bit and talk low, mo, so, I think. So let's jump into local first. So local commerce equals to real places. You know, merchants might think about their businesses in an abstract sense, but in reality, they've got inventory at a real physical location. They're trying to get real people to go into those places to buy product or carry out those services. And well, consumers care about that too, right? They want to go to those places and sort of eat dinner or buy products or do things like that. And commerce developers, kind of like we are at Where, what we're trying to do is sort of connect those consumers to those merchants. And that connection really happens at that place, and that's real important. And so just building those applications that connect those consumers to those merchants at those places is harder than it should be. And it's really hard. And some of the reasons why it's hard is that, well, if you had all the data about the place yourself and you kind of owned it all, it's pretty straightforward. You can just sort of publish all that data about that place and sort of drive action. But the reality is, there's a lot of data in a lot of different places that you're trying to bring together, whether it's static data like the location of the place or the name of the place, though even that's kind of not that static. But dynamic data, inventory, social activity that's going on around those places. These all come from different sources, and if you want to aggregate that around a real physical place, it'd be great if there was a single identifier of what that place was. Well, there isn't a single identifier. Name and location aren't enough. Names change. All these different sources, they spell places differently. Places move. You've got multiple merchants that are at the same location. And so as you bring all these data sources together, you've got this data concordance problem, and it's actually a pain. And if you do it wrong, you end up with duplicate data, or you lose data, and it's a really terrible experience, and that connection that you're trying to make doesn't happen. And second, the data goes stale quickly. I mean, remarkably, when a merchant or a store goes out of business, we're not the first person they call to tell them that that place is now closed, right? Terrible experience. You drive some consumer to a location that they want to go do something, and just to find that that place is closed. It's a really bad experience. So kind of what I want to say here to the developer community is let's try to solve this problem together. Let's figure out how we can have a single set of identifiers that all these different applications can agree upon and can then share this data in a much easier way. And sort of, Where has an approach to this, and Milo's got an approach to this. And now that we're all part of a single community, I think we can do something pretty interesting there. And we just got to kind of put our minds to it. And I'd be interested in hearing folks' ideas about that. And secondly, let's kind of pledge to each other that we'll keep the data fresh, so that if we know that data is wrong, we figure out the right ways to spread that data out and to publish it to everybody. So, okay, mobility. Mobility is about places too. It turns out that sort of proximity to a physical location is really important to consumers. They want to go to the store that's near them to go do something. And it's important to merchants also. They want to reach out to those people that are near them. And it turns out that like zip code isn't like close, right? That's not the level of granularity. You need like physical location that's really close to that. And when you start sort of working with this location data, you have this problem of kind of overloading the consumer with like too much information. There's a real signal to noise problem. And you arrive at the conclusion that to kind of deal with sort of mobility and places, you need relevancy and you need recommendations. And so you go, all right, I read all these papers about how to build recommendation engines and things like that. And then you realize that mobility makes this really hard to do for a couple of reasons. First off, preference data about places is really sparse. it turns out, especially in a very hyper-local sense. So the number of people that can give you sort of input about sort of what's important or what they like or whatnot in a very tight geographic location is very small. So it's not big enough to build a really good collaborative filter for something. Like in movies, you've got, everybody around the world is watching the same movie and it's got some input on it. It's the same movie, right? But there's just not enough people in that single location to really give you enough data. And second is, you tend to go to the same places all the time. So the number of things that you've expressed interest about doesn't grow really large. It's about a small number of places. And so you end up with this sort of cold start problem that when, I'm from Boston, when I come here to San Francisco, all of my preferences are about Boston, and now I'm here, we don't know anything about me in San Francisco, and it makes sort of doing that hard, and so mobility really creates that challenge there. And guess what, sort of developers here, you can't pre-compute all the data. So in movies, you can build that recommendation filter sort of ahead of time and then present it to the user. But in a hyper-local sense, you don't know where I'm going to be, so you can't pre-compute it, so you've got to figure out how to do it really fast. So at Where, we approach this problem of trying to sort of solve those sort of three things around mobility and recommendations and relevancy by building something we call a place graph here. And this is an example of a place graph for part of Boston where sort of the arcs between places represent similarity between those places in some either explicit or implied or inferred way. Turns out that people that like the Museum of Fine Arts also like DSW shoes, or at least there's some connection between those places. And kind of twist your head a little bit, you can understand that, yeah, you go to museums, you probably need good shoes, right? So how do we build this? In sort of the marketing deck, you don't get to hear how we built it, but this is a developers conference. So what we did is we took a bunch of explicit data, so people saves, check-ins, likes, reviews, stuff like that. Implicit data, maybe you clicked on a banner ad or you had a search result that brought up those places. And then specific sort of place data, so things like their location and their category and stuff like that. And we jammed that all through a machine learning algorithm to kind of build so that connected graph of similarity, and then we built a relevancy engine on top of that. And what's really cool is it's a real simple API to interact with this, and we're making it available to all you guys. So you can sort of use this recommendation engine and figure out how to do cool stuff with it. We only know maybe 10% of the interesting things. And I guess I'd also make a plea to the community here that if you've got interesting data about places and about sort of people's interaction with places, come talk to me, because I'd love to figure out how I could take that data and incorporate that into sort of the learning algorithms that we've got to help even make this stuff even better. Now, before I jump into social, which is sort of the last piece, I wanted to say that sort of mobile and places are also really interesting in mobile advertising. And it seems kind of obvious, but it's actually not getting all the airplay that I think it should. And so why are places important in mobile advertising? Well, it's pretty straightforward to target an ad to a narrow location that's maybe around a place and sort of drive traffic, whether it clicks through that ad network and things like that. And there's a bunch of companies that have been really successful in doing that. But it's so much more powerful that in that banner ad, not only did I target it to people that were near that store location, but I've got the actual location of the closest store for that thing. And so I can sort of really help that person know that they can act on this right away and that it's close by. And then that place page that they go to when they click on that ad, we bring in all that data that we aggregated earlier about these places to really drive action and get people to go to those places. So where we've built and operate a mobile ad network that does this all the time. We're doing about 3 billion impressions a month right now into about 400 different mobile applications. It's pretty cool. We're doing a campaign right now with one of Milo's merchants that's got real-time inventory. Person clicks on the ad, they goes to that page, you can see the inventory of that store. It's really pretty cool stuff. So if you want to learn more about advertising and stuff like that, come to the booth. So lastly, social. What did I want to talk about social? I think social and places is still an experiment. So that's what that slide means. It's still an experiment. So we're seeing all the applications out there, people checking into places, people saving lists of places, where we built an application that lets you do those things. And I don't know where it's going to go. I think we're at the beginning of sort of discovering how important this is. And I certainly don't know how to monetize the social aspect of that right now. One of the things that we believe, but again, it's early, so I don't want you to go write a dissertation on this or anything like that, is that the social graph is not enough as a predictor of intent to purchase in the local purchase space. But the social graph plus a places graph combined together, really interesting things can happen. So some of the experiments that we're doing at Where and with PayPal is, hey, taking two people's different place graphs and intersecting them together and coming up with a sort of joint set of recommendations. It's a pretty interesting idea. Second is, hey, I've now trying to build relevancy and I've got a competing relevancy model where maybe it's a place where half the people really like it and half the people really hate it, and so you don't know what to do to either recommend or not recommend it to Moke. Well, using Moke's social network layered on top of that is a way of potentially disambiguating that recommendation problem you might have. And lastly, one that we're thinking about a little bit is, does your place graph, so the personal places that you've connected to, how do they sort of represent who you are? You know, you are what you eat, or you are where you eat. I'm not sure what the right expression is, but you know, you go to these review sites now, and I read a review by some person, and I have no idea whether that person is like me. But looking at their places graph might give you some way to indicate of, hey, that person's similar to me, they've got similar likes that we have. Or the closeness of my declared interest and their declared interest could be really interesting. And those are some of the things that we're looking at, but it's early, and I'd be really interested in hearing what you guys have to say about that. And lastly, download Where from your favorite app store and go to the booth to find out what we actually do, if you want. And otherwise, that's it.
We have a few minutes, I think, for questions. So if you have any, I'm going to open it up for everyone to ask questions.
What's the smallest planet in the universe?
Anyone? Any questions? I see a hand right there, so go ahead. Question is, are the integrations to Where and Milo part of the fabric, which is the layer for X.commerce? Are they integrated? And if not, when is that going to happen?
You want to go first? Or? Go ahead. So we've got a couple APIs that we've exposed now, one for place search and one for recommendations. We're in sort of beta testing it within the X.com technology space right now, and so soon, real soon. It's done, but it's just a few T's to cross.
My understanding is that ours is in there, our full API, so you can access it through X-Commerce.
If not now, very soon. Yes, sir.
I had a question for Greg. You mentioned about, we talked earlier, but I was wondering about keeping the data not stale.
Yep.
How do you see that, how do you kind of see that happening when there's a lot of people returning data or after you?
Magic?
So the question is, how do you see a Places database evolving and being fresh when there's a lot of people, or in a crowdsourced way, where if that's the method of updating data, how to keep it fresh or true?
So I've got a bunch of ideas about how to do that. I think we have an opportunity here with a community, if we all kind of agree that this is a problem that if we solve helps everybody, and so we're committed to help each other solve this. It's a lot easier than just saying, hey, there's a bunch of independent data sources out there that don't see the value in keeping the data fresh and up to date. So within sort of PayPal and eBay, we can create a data pattern where there's a database of record of places where all the sort of input data comes in there and it's cleansed and concorded somehow at that one place and then gets redistributed back out to the community and the properties that want to use it. And that's sort of the most straightforward way to do it, but it's logistically that's reasonably complicated. So I'm not exactly sure. If you've got good ideas, I'd love to hear them. Nick's going to solve it for us. So.
Yes?
Yeah, this is actually a question about Milo. I'm curious to understand how receptive and what the value proposition is for local retailers to release their inventory in Milo. If you think about it, what all brick-and-mortar retailers want is to drive foot traffic, right? So if they release their inventory to you, and they know that they're never going to compete, my local electronics store is never going to be able to specify on price, right? So if they release inventory to you, and I'm searching on something, and I see the price right there, that Best Buy's doing at midnight. How is that valuable that way?
So that was a long question, but to simplify, hopefully I'm not too oversimplifying it. What's the value proposition for the merchants when they're actually giving all their inventory out and their prices could be compared with the competitors? Is that
So you hit it on the head. The number one problem, like if you were to talk to the top 100 retailers, probably 90 out of 100 of them would tell you their number one problem is, how do I get more people in the store? I pay rent to have these stores. I pay for people to be in the stores. I have fixed costs for inventory in these stores. And you know, the old story of sort of using circulars in the newspaper where, you know, you would advertise specials and use that to drive foot traffic into stores, with newspaper circulation sort of declining over time. That trick doesn't really work anymore. And retailers almost uniformly realize, there are maybe a couple exceptions, that their audience has shifted and that the attention has shifted from old media like newspapers and things like that to the internet. And the interesting thing about the internet is, in addition to having an audience and having someone hooked that's paying attention to that real estate, you actually know what they're searching for, and you can be relevant to them exactly when they're searching for it. So if you think of eBay, right, about 100 million active users. All of that search activity is currently only going to the eBay community. It drives a huge amount of purchasing, you know, tens of billions of dollars in GMV. Opening that up, if the retailers aren't in there when someone's doing a search there, if they're not there, they're not going to get any business. They have zero chance, pretty much, of getting that business. By being included in that stream when someone's making a purchasing decision online, they can do really well. I think that with, you know, more transparency of information, there are clearly some sectors that are going to be more challenged than others. So, you know, there's a lot of transformations happening in books, sort of book retailers right now because of digital and Amazon and, you know, other online vendors. I think that you're going to see retailers starting to get smart about this, because it's two ways, right? I mean, the consumers get information about what's available in the store, and we're also helping pass back information to retailers about when they're relevant and what they could do to help expand their inventory and who they need to target. And that can help inform retailers so that they have truly something unique that people want, that differentiates them. And a ton of retailers offer products. Your question was about a very small retailer. A lot of the small retailers offer products that a lot of big retailers don't. So it can actually be a win-win for everyone, where that selection actually doesn't exist at some of the bigger stores, or they're category experts and they have a wider selection than some of the bigger stores do. So I think it really can be a benefit. I think it is one of the rare win-wins for retailers and consumers.
And mobile's huge here too, right? So you can expose the Milo data into these mobile apps, and so when someone's doing a search on a mobile device, the Bing research says they're within an hour of wanting to actually go do something. So they could be close to that small electronics store and really have an intent to go purchase it right then.
And there are other things that retailers compete on too. Service is one of them, location, brand. There are all sorts of things that they can compete on. Price is only one of those things, and you know, I think that those are also things that we're amplifying and making very clear to customers in informing their purchasing decision.
All right. I don't know how we're doing in time. Does anyone know how we're doing? We're doing 5 minutes?
It's 2:30, but the next session is in 30 minutes. So
Okay, so we can. Yes, please.
So my question is for Michael as well as what is the current coverage you cover in the environment space, and is it beyond for both
the question is, what is the coverage for Milo and where? Is it domestic, international?
So for Milo, so far it's domestic. We're experimenting with a few things internationally right now. We cover the majority of the big retailers in the country, so your sort of big box retailers we were talking about, and we're rapidly expanding into the small and medium-sized businesses and the sole proprietorships.
Yeah, we're domestic right now, and we're exploring the data partnerships with international providers as we speak, and that's Moke's job to get that done.
All right, one last question. Oh, Dave, I believe you had the hand up. Yes.
One question I have is the local paradigm is sort of the one-off product. There seems to be a lot of focus on, the product. There's a million of the same thing, but what about local art stores, craft stores, those types of things? eBay obviously has a history of being very successful in that space, but I'm wondering sort of as this as commerce begins to build out, is there, and it seems like very specific to a local paradigm. How do we manage that? Or is there capabilities for those types of products?
So is the question, how do we deal with the sole proprietors? There's large merchants, SMBs, and sole proprietors. The longer tail, how do we address?
Regardless of the merchant size, is that something that will be, or is it with these new technologies?
The answer is yes, absolutely. I think that we've thought about selection a lot from the beginning, the founding of the company. It's actually why we made the mission to actually bring every product on every shelf of every store in the physical world onto the web, because there's a lot of value in exposing these unique products, even if they're handmade and there's only one in the world. That's incredibly valuable to be able to view from the web, whether that's on your computer, in your phone, in your car, on your TV, everywhere the web's going to be, in advertising, online, across any site you might visit. So we do have different methods for integrating with each of the retailers, and at the sole proprietorships that have extremely unique inventory, we have some methods for sort of bringing on their inventory data. A lot of them still do store that data in some sort of a system. It might be less sophisticated than a big retailer, but we've created custom integrations with a lot of those systems so we can still access those products.
All right, so we're going to be around right here. If you have any other questions, feel free to come by. Let's thank their speakers again. Thank you.